Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm here in the Allrecipes Test Kitchen in Seattle today with Ramona. She's one of our all-star cooks and a food and style blogger on Fab Everyday. Today we're going to be showing you how to make ahead and freeze a day's worth of meals that when you're ready to eat, you can just reheat and serve. These are perfect for busy weeknights or during the holidays when you've got a lot going on. Today we're going to be making for dinner a chicken penne casserole, for lunch a slow cooker baked potato soup, and for breakfast we're going to have two options, a pancake breakfast sandwich and a freezer burrito. You can find all the links to these recipes in the comments below or on allrecipes.com. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments or you want to share your favorite recipes, please comment below and we'll try to get to as many as we can during the live, and anything we don't get to we'll answer afterward. So first we're going to start by making our chicken penne casserole.
So I love this casserole. I actually have experience freezing and reheating this one, and so I know by experience that this is a good one if you want to meal plan and make ahead. One of the times that I did that, actually Michelle and I learned that we have kids that are about the same age, but when I was pregnant with my kids, I did a lot of freezer meals that I could reheat really easily with the newborn. This is one of those. The whole family loved it. The other great thing about this one is that it makes a very big amount, so you can actually get 2, even 3 meals potentially out of the one recipe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to start the casserole by seasoning this chicken, and I'm just going to put a little bit of salt and Italian seasoning on the chicken. We'll give it a little bit of extra flavor in the casserole, which is great. And then I'm going to put a little bit of freshly ground pepper on it. I'm going to poach this chicken in the microwave, which is a really easy way to cook it while you do other things. And we're going to just poach this in the microwave.
We need to cover it with plastic
and
wrap.
Yeah, we should cover that with plastic wrap just to make sure that our microwave stays clean.
There you go.
All right, great. All right, so we're just going to cook this chicken for 4 minutes. So today we're using the Panasonic Cyclonic Inverter family size microwave. This microwave cooks very similar to a regular oven in that it cooks and heats the food evenly. So unlike a standard microwave where it pulses on and off, this cooks continuously and you don't end up with cold spots in your food, which is awesome. And it also cooks really fast. So this is going to cook in about half the time as a standard microwave, it's just 4 minutes, which is awesome.
Yeah, I did this one and it took me 8 minutes in my microwave at home. So,
and the other great thing about this one is that we're actually going to end up reheating this casserole in the oven, but if you're really pressed for time at night, this microwave is really large, so you could fit a whole 9x13 casserole dish in here and just reheat the casserole in the microwave, which is not that common, which is awesome.
Right. So I'd like to show you guys a couple tips for how I like to prep a casserole dish for freezing casseroles specifically. Cool. So because a 9x13 casserole dish actually makes enough for about 2 meals if you add sides like salad and garlic bread and things like that, I like to actually partition the pan off with foil into 2 different sections. That makes it easier to prep for freezing as well as to pull out and reheat later. So I'll show you how I do that, and I apologize if this foil is going to make a lot of noise. Here we go. So I actually put these, sorry for the crinkling sound, in the 9x13 pan in 2 separate sections. I actually leave these tops hanging up. That's not going to look so beautiful when you're putting it in the oven, but it's very, very functional, makes it a lot easier. So it might be hard to tell from the angle there, but it makes about 2 half sections just like that. And again, this is not only going to help me keep the casserole dish clean and keep it all easy, but I can pull these in and out when I'm ready to wrap the packets for freezing. So this is now ready for me to put the casserole in once I've assembled everything.
This is awesome. This is a great tip, and it looks like this is going to not take up a lot of space in the freezer, which is awesome as well.
Exactly. You kind of lay these flat. You'll see kind of how that happens when it all comes together. So Michelle over here is actually labeling the Ziploc bag with the cooking instructions. So this is handy. She's got the date that we've made this on here so that we know when we put this casserole in the freezer, and also what's in there, the cooking instructions, 350 degrees in this case, and how long we need to reheat it. So that's going to be helpful for us so we don't have to pull that recipe out later.
This is going to be great so that, especially if you're not the one that's home when it needs to be made, everybody will know exactly what to do.
And that's actually exactly what I did after baby. My mom was here helping me out, and she was able to just pop it in the oven for me if I needed that quick nap.
That's great. That's great. All right.
So the chicken has about just over a minute left. I'll go ahead and start assembling the rest of the casserole.
Cool.
And I'll show you a couple time-saving tricks for this as well as we go along. So first, we've got our cooked penne pasta. A tip on this one is when you're freezing a pasta casserole, you don't want to overcook it. Make sure it is just al dente because that the freezing and the reheating portion can have a little bit of moisture along with it. That could make it soggy if it's already a little bit soft. So we're going to start with that. And really, this is the ingredients here. Once prepped, it's just a dump and go. You could put the pasta in first. You could put it in last. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to mix it all together. So I've got my penne. I have got my shredded Italian cheese, and again, a time saver would be to get pre-shredded packets of cheese, but you can use any kind of Italian cheese that your family prefers.
This looks like it would be really easy to put together on a weekend, like in the afternoon, just to get an extra meal in the freezer before the week starts.
Most definitely. So we've got some spinach here, and some Allrecipes actually like to try different veggies with this. I've seen people do it with broccoli. I've seen people do it with mushrooms. So it's versatile in that way too. So I'm incorporating that together just a little bit, and when I start pouring in the sauce, which includes a can of crushed tomatoes. So again, that's easy. I'm not chopping up tomatoes. A jar of prepared Alfredo sauce. You could use homemade Alfredo as well if you've got it. And pesto sauce. So one thing that's important to note with this recipe, a lot of the reviewers did state that they used about half the amount of pesto that it called for. In my experience and in others' experience here, testing it out this week, that is accurate. So we would definitely recommend you go about half the amount called for, which is about the amount, I think, in a standard jar of pesto anyway.
Maybe unless you're a pesto lover. Right?
Unless you're a pesto lover. So I'm going to mix that together, and then before we do the chicken here, I want to tell you about another substitution that you could do. The recipe does call for 1.5 cups of milk. If you like it a little creamier, as I do, because there's not enough cream in there with the Alfredo sauce and the cheese, I'm going to do half and half. You can do half and half heavy cream instead of milk if you'd like. We are going half and half today.
It looks like this casserole is going to be really full of sauce, and so it's not going to be dry. So this looks really good.
Definitely.
The cheese. All right, I'll start chopping the chicken to add to some of the pre-cooked chicken that we already have. Well, this looks really, really nice. It looks so juicy and tender. This is such a time saver to get this going in the microwave while you do the other stuff on the stove and get your other ingredients ready.
Right, and honestly, a lot of people might not think about cooking chicken in the microwave, but
so
why
easy.
not? Again,
this
we're
turned
trying
out really, really nicely. The broth really helps keep it moist. So if you're just tuning in, we're in the Allrecipes Test Kitchen today in Seattle, and we're making a make-ahead dinner that you can freeze and just reheat when you're ready to cook. We're making a chicken penne casserole, and then we're also going to show you how to make a make-ahead lunch and two make-ahead breakfasts. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the comments below. And we have Rachel here. Rachel, it sounds like you've got a question.
Yeah, we have a question from Melissa. She wants to know how long these will last in the freezer.
This will last about 2 to 3 months.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah. I love the idea of having food in the freezer, especially when I'm busy. What are some of your other favorite make-ahead dinners?
So there are several casseroles that'll work, but something that people might not think about is enchiladas. Enchiladas is another one of my favorite ones to do. And just like with this recipe, there are some steps that you'd save for just when you reheat, and I'll talk about that shortly. Shepherd's pie, that's another good one for dinner that you can do. And then other things like curries as well. Stews and curries are surprisingly good to freeze and reheat as well.
There you go, here's some chicken.
Got our chicken ready, and so that's cubed up. Now, this recipe does call for cubed cooked chicken, but you can use rotisserie chicken if you want to save time there. You can use leftover holiday ham. You can get a little bit flexible. Turkey, exactly.
That's perfect.
A lot of leftover turkey. So I'm just going to mix that in.
So saucy.
And this is, as you can see, this is a very large amount, which is fantastic because we're talking about prepping and making lots of things.
Well, it's really great because if you're going to cook, you might as well make enough to have extra.
So one thing that you want to do is if it calls for you to, if the recipe calls for you to put nonstick spray on your pan, you're going to want to do that with the foil. So just the same reasons. You want to be able to get it out there easily if it calls for it. And since this one is pretty cheesy, it has the potential to get sticky upon baking. So I'm going to just use some nonstick spray on the inside, and I'm just gonna scoop this in here, and I can just tell already from the quantity that this is gonna fill more than my 2 packets here. So what you can do if you're making this one is you can actually do a third in I've done a 9 by 13 cooking dish, but you can do a third in a 9 by 9 square glass dish as well, and then you have 3 ready to go.
You know what would be great is if you did this and you had the 2 to make ahead, and then you had 1 for dinner that night.
Yes, perfect, exactly. If we're going through the effort, we want that gratification,
Right.
and we want to get that eaten.
Exactly. That's one thing I've learned with 2 kids is when you're gonna cook, you better make it count. 'Cause
Yeah.
it still takes time.
Okay, so that's about enough for the 2 here, and as you can see, there really is enough for a whole additional casserole
great.
there. So if you don't mind.
Take that.
So this casserole, because it has all pre-cooked, no raw ingredients in it, you don't actually have to bake it before you freeze it, whereas some you want to bake and then just reheat upon the defrost stage. But this one you don't have to, so we're going to actually prep this for freezing just right now, and then just bake it for the first time after it's done. So this may, because it is a big casserole, this might get a little messy here. When you do pre-bake it, that actually helps because then it can congeal together a little bit with the cheese. But I'm going to show you how I prep a casserole in foil, and then Michelle might attempt one with me here. So I've got an extra piece of foil, a large piece, as you can see, heavy-duty foil. I'm going to actually face it the opposite direction. I'm going to carefully try to pull this one out without losing too much of the shape.
This is a great tip.
So tucking the sides up is really the key on this first layer. So you might want to help grab it by the side a little bit.
I like having a pro show me what
Usually
to do.
when you have pre-baked the casserole beforehand, again, it is a little easier to do.
Okay.
But so make sure those sides are tight, and then I just kind of fold it in almost like I'm tenting it. But that way I can kind of pinch it together with those sides exactly.
All right.
And then you get the good seal with that second one. This is really to just kind of preserve everything in its shape.
This is great, especially if you're going to give this casserole to somebody that just had a baby, or maybe somebody that's ill, or just for a friend that's busy and needs a little help. That way they can put it in their freezer, and then when they're ready to eat, it won't be freezer burned, and it'll be just as good as the day you made it.
Looks like we have a question.
We have a question, yeah. Do you want to undercook your pasta a little so it doesn't become mushy when you reheat it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd recommend undercooking. I would just make sure it's al dente, just because, remember that these do call for them to be baked, and so they always do account for a little more cooking anyway. But I think the main thing is don't overcook it. Don't let it get to that mushy stage. Keep it al dente. So once you've got that, looks like you're pretty secure there. You just really kind of wrap this as tightly as you can. I do it long ways first, and then kind of like I tucked it on the inside, I do a nice tight roll here. And really the main thing you want to do is to make sure that there is no openings, that there is no air exposure in there again, because it helps with the freezer burn. And this size packet fits really nicely into a large freezer bag.
This is great. So we can just stack these in the freezer. Won't take up much space. Then on a Tuesday morning, when I know I'm not going to get home till late, just pick it out. Freezer, it's good to go.
I try to get a lot of the air out
All
too
right.
when I seal it, and so I don't know if anybody has special tricks for this. I've seen people stick a straw in there and suck it out, but I actually just kind of pinch it together, and then actually just leave a little opening and then suction out some of that air. You can, again, you could do it with a straw, but trying to get some, I didn't get as much as I normally would, but you get the idea.
That's a great tip.
But that helps not only with storage space, but also less air in there, less chance of freezer burn.
Awesome. So I'm going to put these in the freezer, and then we'll take out our defrosted version and reheat one.
So there's one more step in this recipe that we have not yet demonstrated, and that's because we are freezing and reheating. So like I said when I mentioned the enchiladas earlier, if there is any final step to a casserole that you want to freeze, like adding cheese or a breadcrumb topping, for example, it's really a good idea to save that until you're doing the reheating phase. It melts nicely, it looks nice, it has a better texture that way, and you get that nice little final browning that you can have when you just made it fresh. So so for that, we went ahead and froze it just like that, but there is another step, as you'll see on the recipe, and that's to make this this breadcrumb and Parmesan cheese topping.
So we're gonna make this for the casserole today, which you could do if you were going to just defrost it and heat it. You can also freeze the topping with the casserole at the same time. And so we're gonna add olive oil for the final step, but you could also just, you can just leave the olive oil out when you freeze it and just put the Parmesan and the breadcrumbs in a Ziploc or a plastic bag, and then it'll all be together when you bring it out.
Right. I mean, really, there are no limits to how much you can pre-prep if you want to save yourself time the day you're ready to cook it.
So this recipe calls for a half a cup of Parmesan cheese, but if you like your topping cheesy, feel free to add more.
We've already made this a nice creamy cheesy pasta, so might as well do it up on that
Well,
Parmesan.
you want to get it on top.
So the wonderful thing about the way we froze this is that you can just pop it right back into a pan when you're done.
So great.
So we made it in a 9x13, but since we're just making one dinner portion today, we're just going to take that inside layer out and drop it right into a 9x9 pan. Now you'll notice it doesn't fill out the pan perfectly, but that is okay. It's about right enough for you to bake it. And we had our instructions there on the outside of that freezer bag, so we don't even really have to think. We don't have to get that recipe out again from anywhere. We can just get it topped.
Yeah, we're going to bake
finish
it
off.
at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. We want the cheese on top to be bubbly. Now this is enough for the full casserole, so I'm just going to use half. Just sprinkle that on there. Oh, it looks so good.
And we do have a
It's gonna be so
question.
cheesy. Yeah.
For those who are just tuning in, how long did you cook the chicken in the beginning?
Oh, we just cooked it for 4 minutes. We poached it in the microwave for 4 minutes. So it's really fast to come together, but if you have leftover cooked chicken, like from a rotisserie chicken, or if you have ham or turkey, you could always substitute some meat that you already have as well. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, and then we're gonna give it a try. Oh man, we have one we baked already. Looks so good. Doesn't that look delicious?
So even though it was pre-frozen, this is definitely ready to serve. I would be proud to serve this to my family or guests.
Yeah.
Another good thing about the fact
that's
that
a
you've
great
got
idea.
you've got 2 to 3 in the freezer too. If you have unexpected guests, you can just make them both in that 9x13 and make a full-size casserole again.
And today we cooked it in the oven, but you can also, this particular microwave that we have here, you can fit an entire 9x13 casserole dish in, or easily one of these smaller ones.
Ooh, look how cheesy that is.
Yum.
There is nothing that looks pre-frozen
Everybody loves
about that. Get myself.
You know, I would, if I was making this in the oven, I would probably roast my vegetables right along with the casserole at the same time, and then I'd have my veggies done too. What else do you like to serve it with?
I like to do this one with a side salad and garlic bread, of course. My children love garlic bread with pasta dishes.
This is really delicious.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
love
it is.
this. I love this. So cheesy. Okay.
And just the right
I could
amount
eat
of
all of
pesto.
that. Yeah, it's so good. It's perfect. I think the reviews on the site are great. If you're wondering about a recipe, it's good to read them, and other people can tell you what they did. And I think that was a great tip on this recipe. The pesto is just a really nice balance with all the other ingredients. So that's awesome.
All right.
So if you're just tuning in, we're here at the Allrecipes Test Kitchen today, and we're showing you how to make ahead and freeze a day's worth of recipes so that when you're busy or during the holidays when you've got a lot going on, you can just reheat them when you're ready to eat. We just finished making a delicious dinner. It's a cheesy chicken pesto casserole with penne. It's so, so delicious. And now next we're gonna move on to a slow cooker baked potato soup, which is an awesome recipe because it's really simple to just throw together and set in the slow cooker and move on. What do you love about this soup?
So I love this soup because, especially this time of year when it's getting cold and you need something warm and hearty, this soup is exactly that. It is warm, it is hearty, it's very, very comforting. But that being said, it's also really ideal for freezing. This one is another one that I have great experience with freezing. And there's also a few hacks to make it a little easier too. So this is a potato soup. And we're going to put it in the slow cooker, and we're just going to really dump it all in there again. But I'll talk to you about a couple hacks and a couple substitution tips as I go along. So it does call for fresh chopped red potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and put those in the slow cooker and toss them with a little bit of flour first. This actually protects the potatoes from absorbing all the other liquids in the ingredients while it's sitting. And a good thing about that is you can actually prep it at night the day before and put it in your fridge and then start it the next day. But I'm going to toss it with that. Now, if you really want to save time, you can actually use frozen bagged breakfast potatoes, so hash brown potatoes.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah. So it's going to be more fresh. You're going to have more of the, the potatoy goodness with fresh chopped potatoes. But if you don't have time, it's
frozen
not going to.
Potatoes are a great substitution.
Yeah.
They're really not much to them, but frozen potatoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you have room for error too much.
Yeah. I'm going to chop this bacon while you're doing that because I know you're going to need some for the soup and for the top.
Yes, thank you very much. We've got a couple vegetable additions here. We've got some minced garlic and red onion.
That'll give it a lot of flavor.
Yes. And then as far as our seasonings go, we've got salt and pepper, we've got parsley, dried parsley, as well as some ranch dressing mix, which is a powdered ranch dressing mix, which
That's a great thing for a baked potato
love
soup.
ranch.
Yum. Well, there's a lot of things in here that have a lot of flavor, so even though we're making this in the slow cooker and we're not browning things on the stove, it sounds like it's still going to have tons and tons of flavor.
Right. So one thing it calls for too is bouillon granules. Now, if you don't have chicken bouillon granules, there's a couple things you can do instead. If you've got bouillon paste like this, you can do that. I think it translates to the same amount.
Yep.
Exactly. I usually don't have the granules, but I usually do have bouillon cubes. And so what I would do is I would just grind some of those up or crumble some of those up if I didn't have it.
That's a great tip.
So before I mix this all together and add some bacon, another substitution that some of the reviewers recommended on Allrecipes is instead of the water to use chicken broth. I always use chicken broth with this, and it's really good, so that's what we're doing today.
Great.
So 3 cups, I believe, of that. And we are going to put some bacon inside,
All right.
but save some
I will
for
save
garnishing.
some for
Yes.
the top because we're going to want to get the bacon everywhere.
And so instead of bacon, you can actually use ham,
Ham
chopped
would be
ham.
great, yeah. Even some prosciutto or another
yeah.
like dried Italian meat. That would be great.
But bacon is always a good choice.
This is so easy. This is all we had to do. Just load it up, stir it up, and we're ready.
7 to
right?
9 hours on low.
Okay.
Set it and forget it. Actually, you have one more step.
Yep.
Again with this one, and that's and you could do it when you get home from work if you started this in the morning, and that is to add some heavy cream. And you want to do that just with 15 minutes to spare. So it pretty much is cooked and is finished up, and you want to add that cream just at the last minute. Leave it on low for about 15 more minutes. And then you could eat it right then and there, but of course we're showing you how to freeze things and get them ready for reheating later. You want to, if you were getting it ready to freeze and reheat, you're going to want to let it cool completely. You don't want to put anything that's hot in the freezer. So we actually have some that's already cooled and ready for us to do the next step.
Right. I'll label the bags.
Okay.
And question, can
Yeah.
you double this recipe?
You just want to make sure that you have enough room at the top of your slow cooker. So I think it depends on the size of your slow cooker. If you're making it in the slow cooker, yeah. You need a few inches from the top. You can look at the manufacturer's directions, but they'll tell you how full is the max limit. So don't want to get too full.
So when we prepare these for freezing, we do them in a smaller freezer bag, and we serve them in 2-cup portions. That's about a serving size. And it's a perfect size for these bags to where the bags will still lay really flat and you won't take up a lot of freezer space. They're also easy to pack up for work or whatever when you've stored them flat that way. So easy way to do it is to just scoop 2 scoops right here from your cooled dish.
This is perfect. I have a freezer at work, which is really great. And then this is the kind of thing I could make, bring in, leave it in there, and then a day when I'm busy or I forgot my lunch, I can just take this out of the freezer, put it in the microwave at work, and I've got a great lunch there.
So if you're making a mess like me, you'll want to make sure that you've got the liquid off of the edge, because again, you want to be able to seal this up and not have any of the liquid exposed to the freezer. You can actually keep it upright when you're preparing it to close. And again, you can kind of suck out some of that air at the last second without inhaling the soup, hopefully. I didn't do a very good job there either this time, but again, you could stick a straw in there in just a little bit of an opening. There we go, that's a little better. And once it's sealed, and you want to use a decent quality bag, not just a sandwich bag, but a freezer
Quality.
storage bag
Yep.
for these, because you need them to be able to lay flat and not pop right open.
Oh, great.
So doing it on a cookie sheet like this is a great way to make sure they lay nice and flat. And the more air you get out, the better, because then you have less, like I unfortunately have, a decent amount of air exposure there, and that's going to allow for a little more freezer burn possibility. So the more air you get out, the better. And then you just pop these in the freezer
Okay,
flat.
great. I'll put these in the freezer.
And we're going to garnish these up next after we reheat them. So Michelle's going to show you how we reheat it, and I'll start preparing some toppings. And you can use different toppings, really whatever you love on a baked potato soup. I know we both agreed that cheddar cheese, bacon, and chives, or
that sounds
green
perfect to
onions
me.
are really the way to go. So you could do sour cream.
Yum. Well, you just want to break this soup up after it comes out of the freezer so that you can get it in your bowl. And then, like I said, if you're at work or if you're at home on a weekend, maybe you're doing some house projects and you just need a quick lunch, you can pull this out of the freezer and just get it right into the microwave. So we're going to microwave this on 4 minutes. Okay. And again, the great thing about this microwave is that it cooks really evenly, just like an oven, or in this case a stove if you were reheating on there, and so you're not going to get any cold spots in the middle, and in this case we don't even have to stop to stir the soup, so that's really great. All right, let's get those
some of
toppings
these
going.
green onions
Okay.
chopped over here.
And if you're just tuning in, we're here in the Allrecipes Test Kitchen, and we're showing you how to make and freeze a day's worth of recipes. So if you're busy on a weeknight, or if you've got a lot going on in the holidays, you just have some meals in the freezer that you can pull out and reheat when you're ready to eat. We've made a dinner, a chicken penne casserole, and now we're finishing up our yummy slow cooker baked potato soup. And then we're going to show you how to make 2 breakfasts that are great for the freezer. All right, so I'm going to start by chopping some green onions. Oh, look at you with your cheese already.
Got a little ahead of myself there.
That's all right. I love this idea. What are some of your other favorite lunches to have in the freezer?
So you can do wraps in a similar way to the breakfast burrito we're going to
Okay.
talk about later. But really soups, I love soups and I love curry. I think I said that a few times, but I love them. They're so great for work. Although, you know, with curries, you want to be careful in the office if you're reheating things that are that are very fragrant. People might either want some or ask you not to do that again.
I'm that girl.
I am that girl
That's
too.
definitely me. That's definitely me. If any of you who are watching have a favorite make ahead and freeze lunch that you'd love to share, please include them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for more ideas for work lunches. Yes, Rachel.
We have a question. What kind of microwave are you using?
We're using a Panasonic Cyclonic inverter family size microwave, and as we've mentioned, this microwave cooks really evenly, and so the warmth is distributed throughout the food and you don't end up with cold spots like you might in a standard microwave.
It's also really large. You can fit, as we talked about earlier, a whole casserole dish in there.
Yes.
It's actually, it's a
great.
lot of space. It's nice.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so we've got our toppings, and our soup's going to be out in about 2 minutes, which is great. And what else do you think is good for a slow cooker recipe? I think one of the great things about this one is that it just came together really quickly, and we put it in. We didn't have to use the stove, and we just got to set it and forget it. And by the time we got home from work, it would be ready.
There's one that I love. It's a jambalaya in the slow
Oh.
cooker, and I love Cajun food too. So some people would think, that's risky. Don't mess with your jambalaya in a slow cooker. But no, I found one that's really good, and it's just like this one where you really just dump a whole bunch of things in it. You do have to take time to prep and chop some veggies, but you dump it all, including some shrimp if you'd like,
Yeah.
and sausage. You can go
Oh.
anywhere from andouille to a nice Polish or smoked sausage from the grocery store,
Nice.
and then pop it in the slow cooker. It's done. It also makes a huge quantity, so that's
great.
another thing that I like when I have guests. So people that come over to my house for holidays, they are usually not surprised to find jambalaya one of the nights while I'm busy prepping for something else. Jambalaya is on the menu from the slow cooker for dinner.
Well, this is great because a lot of these meals that we're showing today, you can make enough that you can have a meal, and you can freeze some too. They make a lot, so that's great. If you're going to be batch cooking on the weekend, you can get a lot of meals out of one effort, which is awesome.
And then when you portion them into sizes like this, people can help themselves. I don't have to be as responsible for getting it into the oven for them.
Right.
They can actually get their packet of soup. They can heat it up. They know the instructions because we've put it on the bags, and everybody can help themselves. They've still got a fresh home cooked meal but just on their terms and on my terms too.
It's great if you have kids or guests that you want to make sure you have meals around, like say if you're traveling for work or you're going to be out of town or somebody's out of the house that night, it's great to have meals in the fridge. I love
Exactly, and both of us probably have that situation right now
Yes,
back home
right
with,
now.
with our kids.
that. Definitely left some foods in the freezer before I left
Same,
the house.
same.
Yeah. Rachel, do you have any other questions?
If the soup doesn't thicken, is there anything you can do?
So the flour really helps with that on the front end. But you know, another thing that you could do is it doesn't call for cheese inside the recipe, but we like to top it with it. If you stir some cheese into it, that is really going to add some thickness, and it's delicious. Potato cheese soup, you know, that's a good combo.
Well, this does not look too thin, which is great. It looks perfect. And the cheese.
Comes out
Make it
really
look
hot
even
because that
better,
oven,
yeah.
that microwave oven, is no joke.
Yep, it's very warm. All right, let's top it up. Try it out.
Okay, let's get some cheddar on there.
A little bit of bacon, some green onions.
Beautiful.
Yum. That's beautiful. I'd be so excited if I was at work and I just reheated this and had this for
Exactly.
lunch. Pretty psyched.
You'd have some jealous coworkers.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. It does have a lot of flavor. I know when we talked, we were saying that this was a slow cooker recipe that you just make ahead and put in the slow cooker and leave it and forget about it. But we used ingredients that have a lot of flavor. So even though we weren't sauteing anything on the stove, it came out really, really full of flavor. This looks great.
Yeah,
you
this
guys.
tastes 100% fresh. I would
is
not
great.
guess that this was frozen.
No, and I would definitely not guess that it came out of a slow cooker with no, it tastes
Right.
like it simmered on the stove for hours.
Right.
So definitely fool everybody. So if you're just tuning in, we've just finished making a delicious loaded baked potato soup in the slow cooker for lunch, and we made a dinner, which is a chicken penne casserole, and now we're going to show you how to make 2 easy breakfasts that you can prep ahead and put in the freezer and then just reheat when you're ready to eat. It was perfect for busy mornings, which pretty much every morning is busy
Right.
during the week anyway. All right, so we're going to make our pancake breakfast sandwich. So this is actually a recipe that you developed, Ramona.
Yes, it is. And I actually got the inspiration from my sister because she hosts a lot of people. She hosts a lot of the holiday events and the parties and things at her house. And so she actually came up with this as a way to make bulk amounts of breakfasts. And I've adapted it a little bit for my family and for freezing and reheating.
Great. I love this tip. I think this would be great, even especially at back to school time or when you're coming back from the holidays, when everybody's got to get back into the groove again. This would be great to have these in the freezer,
Yep.
ready to go.
I think of this as one of those kind of Christmas Day, not Christmas Day even, but you know, New Year's Day, or you know, those days where you know you're kind of done with the holiday entertaining, but you have a lot of people still around and you got to
Right.
feed them, and they want something good, and I want something good in the morning too, but I just don't want to take the time always to do it right in the morning.
Maybe the day after when you're going to go shopping.
Yeah,
You just want to get out of the house, get everybody out. No more cooking.
Everybody's got their delicious breakfast sandwich ready, and I can go shopping.
All right. So I'm going to get the ingredients that are going to go inside the breakfast sandwich cooking while you get the pancake mix going. So I'm going to just scramble some eggs over here because that's one of the ingredients that we're going to be able to add to these sandwiches.
So while she's getting that scrambled, I want to say a little something about the griddle here. So this particular griddle is a non-stick griddle, and since it's non-stick, I'm not going to add any additional non-stick spray. However, if it were my one at home, I would. You want to make sure you've got your non-stick spray for your pancakes. Another thing with this is once we start, we actually assemble these breakfast sandwiches right here on the griddle on the pancake, and once that process starts, it's all pretty quick. So you don't want to overheat your skillet. I usually do about 350 degrees at home when I'm making just pancakes, but when I'm doing these, I have it somewhere around 300 degrees just so it doesn't cook as quickly so that we have time to assemble these sandwiches.
You know, if you were going to make these ahead on a weekend and you had your family around, everybody could personalize their own sandwich, which is great.
Yeah.
So if somebody likes bacon or somebody else likes sausage, you could just make these your own and just label them that way. when we freeze
Exactly.
them.
In fact,
All right.
you know, allergies. My husband, he is not allergic to them, but he doesn't like eggs. But I can make these and another breakfast for him without egg, and just make sure he's got some extra protein with the bacon or the sausage.
Perfect.
So I'm using pancake mix, just pre-prepared boxed pancake mix. Again, we're talking about saving time here, and so that's what I've chosen to do today. You could use your own pancake recipe, but if you're trying to make these in bulk, pancake mix works just fine. So I'm just going to mix that up while our griddle is preheating, and while those eggs are getting scrambled.
These are kind of like a riff on one of those fast food sandwiches, right? So this is awesome. You can save money by making them at home, and you get to control what goes inside, so the ingredients are a little bit fresher, and then you get to customize it, which is awesome.
Yeah, you can, and you'll see it actually has a little bit of syrup on the pancakes, which you guys will see us add later. So it's got that fast food sandwich taste for sure.
All right. I think my pan's finally getting hot, so we'll get that going. Rachel, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, what other fillings can be used?
Oh, you know what would be great? I think if you had some like leftover veggies, if you had a taco night, you could do like omelet style. You could put
That
like little peppers and
sounds
onions in there.
Delicious. So definitely you could substitute the meat out for sausage, for ham, and sausage, you could even do crumbled sausage or little sausage patties.
Or veggie sausage patties if you want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the egg, as I've said. We use shredded cheddar cheese, but you could use different types of cheese.
Well, you could use, could you put even potatoes in here?
Oh, yeah.
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 That would be a great idea.
Really
too.
hearty.
I love that. So this is just a great recipe as a base for sort of riffing off of. I think this is a great thing about recipes like this is that once you learn to make them, you can kind of make them your own. You could add different things. If you really wanted a sweet one, like I can't imagine my kids wanting pancakes without chocolate chips. So
Oh, right.
you could really sweeten it up a little bit and put some mini chocolate chips in that batter. That would be great.
I mean, it's already kind of a sweet and savory dish as it is, you know, with the eggs and the bacon and the syrup. So why not throw some chocolate chips on there?
That's great.
But I have not tried that. I've not tried it with blueberry or anything, but I'm curious. I'm curious how that would be.
All right. My eggs are starting to come together, which is great.
So one thing that's wonderful about making these individually is the way I originally made them was with grab and go in mind, but it's the same thing for the freezer version. You can really just have people grab them and go. On a busy morning, as you were saying, you know, we all want to save time, and I actually like to help my kids become more self-sufficient. So when we freeze these and store them, we actually write on the bag, with the Sharpie again, on the freezer bag, we put how many seconds you need to reheat the frozen version. That way my children actually can go in, and I always have to remind them, take the foil off. You're going to see we wrap it in foil. Take the foil off. They've learned that lesson in the kitchen. Not the hard way, fortunately, but I've made sure I've drilled it into them so that they know not to. And it says on there the amount of time to reheat it. They're able to pop it on a plate in the ways that I've taught them, and just start that microwave and go. And they've got their breakfast sandwich, and it's one less thing, and we can all work together in the morning to get ourselves ready.
That's perfect. I love self-sufficiency. My kids definitely like to cook, and I think it makes them feel good in the morning when they can sort of help out. And it makes me feel good because I can work on something else, like lunch or feeding the dog.
Yeah, mine as well. They really do feel that sense of independence when they can help out in the kitchen.
I love that.
It's good stuff. And we both have young kids, but they're all school age now, 5 and 8. Both of us have 5 and 8 year olds. So it's a funny coincidence, and they're all needing to get out in the morning, just like we're all getting out and ready for work. So it really is good to have things that everyone can grab and go. But still, it's home cooked, it's convenient, it's delicious. They love them. My kids eat the heck out of these and the breakfast burritos that we're going to be making next.
Well, my husband and I, if we didn't have time to eat at home, we could also bring these to work and just reheat them in the microwave if you have a microwave at work.
Oh, exactly.
Which is great.
I haven't eaten it in the car. Sometimes I'll heat it up,
it
run
in
out
the
the door
car.
with it.
Eat it while you're waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the ingredients in this recipe are really pretty easy as well, so it's also the kind of thing you can make with your kids and they could learn to cook too. Which is great.
Right, and everybody has their own way of doing scrambled eggs. So of course you can add your milk, you can salt it up, you can do whatever you'd like, and just make it right for your family. So it looks like those eggs are about ready. So, and actually so is our skillet. We are heated up there. So I'm going to start portioning these out, and I like to think of the pancake size for these as being about what you would expect from a breakfast sandwich. So not a full platter size of pancake, but really about the size of a sandwich. So a 1/4 cup works out pretty well for that. And because you actually need them about even in size, because one pancake is going to be the top and one's the bottom, it is recommended to try to measure them out so that you get approximately the same size. So we're heated. I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4 cup. And the key is make an even number, because again, one piece is the top and one is the bottom.
You know, this is a great excuse to get out my griddle. I have a stovetop griddle that I don't use that often, like maybe only on the weekends, but this is a great way to use it and get a lot going all at once.
So these are actually a little runnier than usual, so they're making bigger pancakes than normal, but we'll have a nice big pancake breakfast sandwich. We're sharing anyway, so that way we don't have to fight over it
That's
too
right,
much.
that's right.
So normally I would try to make actually 4 sandwiches on a griddle. That's 8 total little pancakes, but we've only got room for 6 just with how these are spreading out.
All right.
And right now I'm just waiting for them to cook up a little bit. They're still going to be a bit raw when we start adding our other components. But we want them to be cooked enough to handle the ingredients without the ingredients falling all the way down through the pancake to the skillet. So I'm going to wait for the edges to firm up a little bit and dry out. And to see some of those nice bubbles coming through helps you know it's cooking nice and evenly. So that'll be just a few more, probably 30 more seconds, I think, before we can start.
Starting to get those little bubbles that you can see, the air pockets that are going to let us know that it's time to flip.
Kind of separating these guys just a little bit because they did start going together, but that's okay.
Rachel's got another question for us.
What is the one biggest thing to avoid when prepping freezer meals?
The biggest culprit is air.
That's what I would
Yeah.
agree. Yep.
Yeah. So I think Ramona's given some great tips, Rachel, about how to get the air out of the containers. So whether it's a Ziploc bag and you use Ramona's straw technique, or just kind of suck the air out, or just really try and press it out and compress it, that's great. And I think we wrapped things doubly in foil
Yes.
to really protect them from air. And so air and moisture are really the culprits when it comes to freezer meals. So.
And foil is great because you can really get it into the nooks and crannies. You know, it's not, with these, you know, we can wrap them up nice in the shape of the breakfast sandwich. So if you get it in the nooks and crannies, again, you've got less air exposure on them.
And I think it's great because if you're going to give the meal to someone else, you're going to keep it yourself, just make sure you label it, you know that it's in there, and then if it's all wrapped up tightly, it can go for a few months, and you're not going to really compromise the flavor from the day that you made it, which is great.
I'm just kind of cleaning up the edges of these because we got a little bit runny.
So the idea with these sandwiches when you're cooking them is that you make the pancake still have a little bit of wetness so that the ingredients stick to it, right? Because if we cook the pancake the whole way, then the ingredients wouldn't stay in it.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it also helps seal up the sandwich together and keep it all together for you when you're eating it or freezing
So it's
it.
not so messy.
Right, exactly.
Perfect.
So let's see. It looks like the first row here is doing pretty well. I always
right.
like to lift up just a little, just to see that it is, yeah, it's looking beautiful on the bottom of that,
Okay.
one. So there's no particular order for these eggs. That's great. So we'll go
Right.
assembly line style. You'll start with the scrambled eggs just on half of them because remember,
Okay.
one of these is the top. We have got some crumbled sausage, which again, you could use bacon, you could use sausage.
We did use a lot of bacon today.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Could you also make these the eggs more like an omelet, just to be easier?
You know, I don't know why I didn't actually think about that initially, but that is a great idea. I think I was just thinking how you can mass make, you know, all the different pieces. But yeah, you can actually, if you think about how it is at a breakfast sandwich at a fast food place, they are little egg patties. You can do that with a fried egg. I think that would be delicious, actually. I like
perfect.
it when there's a little bit of the yolk coming through.
That's a great idea. Oh, and that would be good with bacon. Maybe even some of those green onions that we
Yeah.
had in that last recipe. That would be good too. All right.
So this is, yeah, it looks like the tops are starting to cook up nicely too, so we're getting close to the flip time. And so I add a little bit of syrup, and I know we were talking about ways you can modify. Personally, I think the maple flavored syrup is probably the best for these. I've never tried them with like a berry type of syrup. I would just stick with the maple, if it were me, the maple flavor. So that's what I'm doing today. But I'm pouring a decent amount on here, but what you want to be careful about, some is going to drip down, but you don't want too much of that just because it won't, it'll add some stickiness to your skillet. So if you're making another batch of these, you'll have more cleaning to do between, but it's really not too big of a deal if it drips off a little bit.
Great.
So
All
now
right.
I'm going to go ahead
There you
and get one of these guys from the top and just flip it right over. And since it is still a little bit moist in the center, when you press it down here, it actually helps to incorporate everything together and seal up that sandwich. And my sister actually, when I first saw her do this, she actually poured pancake mix over the top and then flipped it. And that works too. I think it just looks nice to have the two separate pancakes. And also then it cooks a little more evenly that way because otherwise you've got one side that was cooking for a lot longer. But you know, you're welcome to experiment with different, just scooping some mix right there on top. So, oops, that one is a little bit stuck because of the syrup. But I want to actually let that bottom brown a little bit and then flip it over just one time. Uh-oh, I'm making a mess. That's lovely. So let me let me try again. We're just gonna pretend that one didn't
That'll
happen.
be the one we eat.
Yeah, my kids would eat it. They wouldn't even care.
Get us some forks.
So I'm gonna flip it over once, and man, this is like an omelet. You know, like when you always like want it to look perfect, and then you flip it, and then it's no longer perfect, but it still tastes just as good.
It'll just taste all the same. We know what went into it.
I swear, I
Love.
make these a lot, and usually this does not happen. I blame it on it's a foreign skillet to me. I don't know this skillet very well. Okay.
If you're just tuning in, we're here at the Allrecipes Test Kitchen in Seattle, and we're making a day's worth of make-ahead meals. We've made a delicious chicken penne casserole for dinner. We've made a make-ahead baked potato soup for lunch, and we're making these delicious pancake breakfast sandwiches for breakfast, which are great to freeze and great to eat right away. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And if you like this recipe, give us a like. And if you have questions that we can't get to during the live, we'll definitely make sure to get to them after the live.
So I'm going to show you how if the pancake was together a little more, we'd be picking it up and eating it just like a breakfast sandwich. But it got a little bigger than I expected. It didn't flip over as nicely as I'd hoped. But when you go to freeze it, you do want to let it cool first, just like when we talked about the soup earlier. It's important to let things cool before you put them in the freezer. So one thing that you can do is just kind of put it like this, and actually just, oopsie, I have two there. You can transfer this right to the refrigerator and let it cool just like that. That just saves a dish and saves a step for me. And then when it's cooled enough, I go ahead and wrap it all the way. I make sure that the foil gets all in those nooks and crannies, and then it's a nice little disc. You can actually then put those into a large freezer bag, like we've been doing with the other things, and then individually pull them out one at a time, unwrap them from the foil, put them on a plate, and put them in a microwave.
Great. Well, we can wrap that up, and then we can eat some since they're hot and ready. And we're not going to reheat these today, but if you were going to reheat them, you would take them out of foil and put them in the microwave. And you want to put 2 paper towels, one on the bottom and one on the top when you reheat them. You're going to heat it for about 90 seconds, and the paper towels are going to help keep the pancake from getting soggy, which you don't want to ruin all your hard work. So I'm going to try this one while you wrap it up.
Sure. So again, you'd want to normally make sure it was nice and cool. This one is a little bit warm still.
That's really, really good. That's a great breakfast. Super filling. It'll keep your kids full till lunch, which is awesome.
And
all right, here's my bag.
Again, I just kind of fold it into a nice circle. Make sure I got as much of the air out as possible as I was folding.
All right.
And there you go.
Nice. All right. So if you're just tuning in, we've just finished making a delicious pancake breakfast sandwich, and we're going to move along into our last make-ahead breakfast, which is a freezer breakfast burrito. And Ramona actually developed this recipe, so tell me a little bit about what inspired this one.
Sure. So I live in Austin, Texas, and any Texan that you know will tell you that breakfast tacos and breakfast burritos are a key part of our diet. So we love breakfast tacos in my family. My kids love breakfast tacos, and I wanted to find something that I could make in bulk so that we can prep it on the weekend and my kids can grab it in the morning and make it. And we turn them more into a burrito than a taco. The breakfast tacos are traditionally a little bit smaller and kind of open, but when you want to freeze them, to me I found that making a heartier, bigger one and wrapping it up tightly as a burrito was really the ideal way to go. But you have some of the components that you would find in a breakfast taco.
So all of our ingredients are already prepped. So today we're going to show you how to assemble them, and then we're going to share how you would reheat it and top it for a delicious, delicious breakfast when you're ready to eat.
So first you want to, we go ahead and assemble it right on the foil in which we're going to wrap and freeze it.
Less dishes.
Yes, exactly. So we start by cutting pieces of foil just a little bit larger than the size of the burrito, or the burrito wrapper, the tortilla, I should say. And you want to use large tortillas for this. You know, you're tempted to think that they're smaller, but once you get all these ingredients in there and wrap it, it takes up more space than you think. So go for the large 10 to 12 inch size tortilla, and flour tortillas are the best. Corn doesn't work as well with this particular recipe, but you can use a whole wheat flour tortilla. That's another way to go.
Or gluten-free.
Or gluten-free, right. Yeah. So one thing that I want to always do first when I'm making these is put the cheese down first. the cheese actually, when you're freezing something, it protects the tortilla from getting soggy on the defrost and reheat process. The cheese actually creates a layer that almost seals off moisture that might get in from any of the other ingredients.
Oh.
So that is just a good little freezer meal tip.
This looks like, this cheese has some flavor. It looks like pepper jack.
Yes, that's great for, you know, anything that's kind of a, you know, Mexican-inspired meal, and you can add a little seasoning and spice like a pepper jack cheese. That's always a good touch. You could do shredded cheddar. You could do the shredded Mexican cheese blend as well. That's actually a really good one to go. But pepper jack, yum.
Yum. Little kick.
And with the potatoes here, because again, I keep saying this, but I'm all about making things easier on myself. I use frozen breakfast potatoes, and I use the O'Brien style potatoes because they already have pepper and onion in them, and so it already has a little bit of those extra things. Of course, you could chop up and saute your own potatoes, saute some peppers and onions with it. That's delicious.
Yum.
But we just sauteed these per the directions, you know, in some oil, let them brown on each side, and then they're ready to go for us.
Okay.
So I, you know, again, just like with some of the other things, these can be customized based on your taste. Again, my husband, he doesn't like the egg, and so since I don't put egg in the versions that he's going to grab in the mornings, I make sure that he's got extra potato and extra meat in there so that it's still just as hearty.
Yum.
And there might be somebody that is, you know, is unable to eat the potato starch, or, you know, the gluten-free, as you mentioned, wrapper, and you want to make things gluten-free, you can do it that way.
Right.
So again, you could do bacon. Bacon is our family's favorite choice for these, but sausage is a delicious,
Sausage would be
a
great.
delicious choice. And we're just kind
Or
of,
ham.
yeah.
Or
Ham.
turkey bacon.
And then we've got our scrambled eggs. And in the recipe that I've got on allrecipes.com, I've got some instructions for how I like to do the eggs here with a little bit of milk, so you can follow that along. You can also put a couple other ingredients in here too, just depending on what you like. You could put some salsa inside. As long as you don't overflow it with salsa, you can actually put the salsa right in. I do, but today we're actually going to be topping it with some salsa, fresh salsa. So we are not going to put it inside.
So if you're just tuning in, we're finishing up our last Make Ahead breakfast, which is a breakfast burrito in the freezer. We'd love to hear comments from you about what you would want to put in your freezer breakfast burrito, and share any of your other favorite Allrecipes freezer breakfasts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
So you want to wrap these so that there is no room for filling to spill out.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn it sideways a little bit. As you can see, I've kind of done mine in a little bit of a line.
Okay. I'll fix mine.
That's just how I do it. And that way I can kind of tell what's going to be the top and bottom of these burritos. So I start with tucking, they look like the side right now, but it's going to be the top and the bottom of the burrito. And then, in fact, I'm going to actually scoot my toppings just a little bit off center. Thank you. Because this is quite a bit of topping, and I'm going to want to wrap it tightly. So I've got the sides, or the top and bottom, tucked in. I'm going to start by rolling, and you want to actually roll the first part just a little bit slowly so that you can make sure that there's no openings right here. So just going to roll that nice and tightly. Beautiful.
All right. Got it.
And then even if it's not as tight as you want it, you actually can correct that on the next step with wrapping it in the foil. So then I actually turn the foil so that it's at a diamond kind of diagonal angle, and then put my burrito right here.
All right.
And just kind of like I did with wrapping the corners, or the top and bottom in, I wrap the corners, the side corners in first. And then now tightly.
This is good practice for wrapping holiday presents. Maybe I'll wrap some t-shirts this way this year.
You can do it in foil. It's festive. It's very shiny. And
Exactly. Put a little bow on it.
exactly.
Rachel's got another question for us.
Yeah, we have a question. Would bell peppers also work well in this burrito?
Most definitely. In fact, the potatoes that I use, the frozen breakfast potatoes, do include bell peppers in them. They're both red and green, and so I think that if you wanted to saute them fresh and put them in, I recommend sauteing them first.
You could definitely even use broccoli or some spinach, like any quick cooking vegetable, and you could buy that pre-made in the produce section. That would be great too.
Does it need to be fully cooked before it goes in?
You could cook them along with your other ingredients.
Yeah, I definitely cook them in advance, but with the freeze and reheat process, you have the benefit, and same thing with the breakfast pancakes, you don't necessarily have to let the cheese get all melty and gooey, because that will actually happen on the reheat process. So you want them cooked, but you don't have to have them ready to go, if that makes sense. The cheese can still be a little bit together and not as melty, because it'll melt more.
I'm going to get one from the freezer, and then we're going to reheat that while we finish making our other ones, and then we'll top it up and we'll be good to eat.
Great. So again, the recipe that we have on Allrecipes for this one, it'll make about 10 breakfast burritos. So the quantity will help you there. And that's just about the amount in a pack, in a standard pack of large tortillas. So think about that. That is, you know, for 2 people, that's a whole set of weekday meals.
That's perfect.
Right there.
And if you're going and buying takeout a few days a week, this really doesn't take that much time, and when you heat it up, we're only going to reheat this for 2 minutes, so it's probably as fast as going through the drive-thru.
So one thing that you'll notice that she's doing right here, we actually want to do it seam side down, just because if it were to open up a little bit while it's cooking, that'll keep it from doing that.
Okay.
But this is actually a trick for microwaving the breakfast sandwiches or something like this. Put a put a paper towel under and above. That actually helps to absorb some of the ice crystals that might have formed in the freezing process before they start melting and sinking into your tortilla or your pancake or your bread or whatever it is.
All right, so I'm just going to pop this in the microwave.
And we have a question.
Yes.
How long do these keep in the freezer?
They keep for about 2 to 3 months.
They keep for about 2 days in my family. Just because the kids they love these. When I have a batch, they're good. But yeah, 2 months, which is another reason why we always like to label the freezer bag with the date that we had them.
Yes.
Would these also work well and just kept in the fridge?
Yes, you can keep
could.
them in the fridge for a few days.
Yeah, I've not tried that. But the good thing is the 2 minutes or the minute, is the 2 minutes on these ones that takes to reheat. That's meant to reheat from frozen, and honestly, as we'll see in a second, it tastes just as good as if we were to eat one of these right now. To reheat them from a frozen state. And so the instructions are really meant for them to be frozen and reheated, but I'm sure you could keep them in your fridge and then just reheat them for maybe 30 seconds or 45 seconds, depending on your microwave.
So the great thing again about this microwave, we're reheating this from frozen, and so this microwave cooks really evenly, and so we're not going to have a cold spot in the middle, which is great, and instead of pulsing on and off, it just has a consistent even temperature, so we won't have any cold spots. When we cut into the middle, it'll be hot and gooey and cheesy. Can't wait. All right, I'm definitely getting ready for wrapping all my holiday presents after this.
Yeah. I think we've got room for about one more. I like to always, I don't know if there's a science to this, but I have always just made sure that I wrap them in or lay them in this bag in a single layer. I think it helps with the space, but also I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if there's a science to it, but I know it saves space, so I like to do it single layer. You can fit about 5 of these in one large freezer bag. So if you're doing a batch of 10, it's really going to only take you 2 freezer bags worth of space in your freezer.
Great. That's great. All right. What other make-ahead breakfasts do you like to do, even if they're not in the freezer?
You know, there are a lot. I don't do a lot of them because, again, my husband doesn't like eggs, so it kind of limits us. There's a lot of really good overnight casseroles that you can make. Egg casseroles with all of the bells and whistles. There are delicious French toast casseroles that I've tried.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing bacon everywhere.
I'll let you wrap that one while I take this one out of the freezer. You know what's also great is overnight oats. That's a really great thing to do.
I've not tried that, but I
Yeah.
hear good things.
They're great. You could do that in the Instapot too, actually, if you have one of those.
I have not gotten onto the Instapot wagon, but I have several friends that swear by it. A lot of the All-Stars actually have become big Instapot fans, and the things they say make me really want one. Maybe one will happen for Christmas this year. We'll see.
I'm all about appliances that make your life easier, which is one of the reasons that this microwave is so great, and it's definitely hot. Whew. This is going to be really, really delicious. You can also find more make-ahead breakfast recipes on allrecipes.com. If you're looking to de-stress your mornings, save a little time and money, eat a little bit more food from your own kitchen, this is a great recipe to try. Ramona's demonstrating her technique once again to get all the air out of the bag.
We'll get these into the freezer.
All right. This is looking pretty good. All right. Look at how cheesy and gooey it is in there. That looks delicious. And then one of the great things is that even though this is in the freezer, we've got fresh toppings, which makes it feel just as good as if you made it right now, but you already did that for yourself earlier. So really lucky. All right. I love cilantro. Do you like it?
I do too, so get that on
Some
there for
people
us.
do not. they feel that it tastes like soap, but I am not one of those people.
Me neither. And I hear the same thing about avocados. It's you love it or you hate it. There's
Yeah.
not really an in-between
Yeah.
with cilantro or avocado.
Well, that's one of the great things about these recipes is you can totally personalize them. They're a great starting point to riff on the flavors that you love. Yeah. You could give it a Mexican theme. You could put sriracha on it. You could probably even put gravy in it if you want to go for like
Hey
a
man,
southern
that
theme.
Texas, I've seen gravy on, actually I have seen gravy on tacos. There's a delicious restaurant in Dallas that has gravy on brisket tacos.
Wow.
And it may sound odd, but actually it sounds delicious to me. But no, it works. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And we have a question.
Yes.
Could you freeze these breakfast burritos with avocado inside?
You could. I think that the freezer is not as kind to avocados because
Yeah.
it would brown them. You definitely want to have some sort of acid like a lime juice or something like that, but you could also just save it for the end or bring
Yeah,
an avocado with you.
I agree. I would save it for the top. I don't, and not just the freezing being unkind. I don't have a ton of luck reheating of things with avocado either.
I
So
think
not
it
just the
wouldn't be the
freezing,
best
but
choice for
but
this.
that but mind you, avocado is delicious, and I would love avocado on these.
Yeah, that would be super yummy. All right, let's give it a try.
So, these are ones that, if you were grabbing it in a morning, you can actually kind of put it back in a piece of foil or in a napkin and hold the whole thing and eat it. But we have decided that we want to top it and garnish it and eat it like this. So it's a little bit hot in there, but
This is
it
good.
looks
The
delicious.
flavors are really good. It's like a very southwestern flavor with the salsa and that pepper jack cheese that we use.
The potatoes make them really hearty, so it's definitely filling.
It's very filling.
Another thing with these is if you wanted to make, it does make a big quantity, the recipe, so you can actually lay them out in a casserole dish and actually bake them a little bit with some cheese over the top
Like
if you wanted to
enchilada
make them
sauce?
fresh. Right,
That would
enchilada
be so
sauce
good.
would be really good on them.
That's great. Well, we thank you again for tuning in with us today. We showed you how to make a whole day's worth of make-ahead meals so that when you're busy or during the holidays when you have a lot going on, you can just reheat them when you're ready to eat. You can find all the recipes in the links in the comments below or on allrecipes.com. And remember, if we didn't get to your comment or question during the live today, we'll make sure to get to it after the live. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Nice job, ladies.
Yeah.